Tomorrow, directors from women's shelters all over Alberta meet in Edmonton. They'll be discussing a growing problem. They can't keep up with the number of women needing refuge from abusive relationships. So the shelters are turning to the provincial government for help. It's not a pretty picture. Every year in Alberta, thousands of women are abused by their husbands or boyfriends. And every year, hundreds of women escape to shelters for help. But not all of them are as lucky.
5,300 families were turned away from shelters in 1990. That's 1,200 more than were turned away in 1989. And it's about 4,000 higher than were turned away in 1988.
Marilyn Flager says more women are calling the shelters because they're realizing there is an alternative to living with violence. But the increasing number of women needing help is putting a strain on the system. Some women who are turned away are put up in hotels and apartments by social services. But the people who run the shelters say that's not good enough, that abused women need long-term help. The answer, more funding from the province.
Our proposal went in for $8.2 million for 1991-92 for all the shelters, satellites, and second stage housing projects across the province.
$8 million, not just to support the current system, but to fund programs for abusive men, too.
We have no men's treatment groups, virtually nil for services for men, period.
Well, only 350 people live in the tiny community of Champion, southwest of Calgary. But today, more than 200 farmers, teenagers, and residents turned out to protest plans to shut down the town's only bank. They were lined up on the main street, perched on the rooftops for a perfect view. Even the school children were out, all in an attempt to save the bank that's been a Champion institution for more than 80 years. When the CIBC shuts down the branch on April 5th, residents will have to drive to Vulcan, 6 kilometers away, to do their banking. That's too far for many of the senior citizens who live in Champion.
We're looking forward to our future. We need the bank, and really seriously consider not closing the bank. We need our Champion bank. Thank you.
But today's appeal did not seem to persuade the bank to change its mind.
And what we had to do is sit down and decide, do we want to build a new branch in Champion? Do we want to upgrade the branch to bring it to our standards? And the decision was, no, we didn't.
The people of Champion say their only hope now is to pull in another, more sympathetic bank. The Alberta News Hour is right back after this with a sports and weather recap. Stay with us.